Hey everybody, it is Jason from the Texas Gun Vault 2, and sorry I haven't been as active the past couple of days. I have been really busy. Had a busy weekend, and the beginning of this week so far, I've just had a lot of work, stuff around the house to do, just a lot of stuff going on that I've had to handle, family stuff, just car issues, getting that stuff fixed and all that. So I haven't had a lot of time to make a lot of content, especially here on the Texas Gun Vault 2. I did have time to make a range report on a Staccato CS, and my Patreons have now seen that. But today I have another project here on the table. I like to make these as soon as I get these home from the people that lend them to the channel. And I got this one kind of in an interesting, I guess I'll say like an attaché case. It's like an old style gun case here. I like this. It says Gun Guard is the thing. It kind of looks like fake alligator skin. But this is coming from Richard over in Fort Worth. He is the gentleman who lent me the Colt 1911 double action. And I returned that to him, and he had something else for me to take a look at. And this is cool because I did not even know this existed. I've never seen one. And he's done his research, and he says there's not a lot of information out there on this specific version, because this is going to be the compact. He says there are a couple of articles written on the full size. And I guess I'll show you what it is first, and then I'll tell you what I personally know and think. And I still got to do a little bit of research on this. But let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen a compact size Browning high power? No? Well, you have now. I know. Take a look at that. This is the Browning high power double action compact. In fact, it says HP-DAC caliber 9x19. It is FN made, so an FN Herstal, made in Belgium, imported by FNMI, Columbia, South Carolina, USA. And it is my understanding this was made in about 2001. That's what Richard told me. And take a look at that. It is a Browning high power, but it's compact. And, of course, let me safety check it. We are good. This gun is double action. Take a look at that. Yeah, and if the hammer is cocked, you put the safety on. Well, I guess not really a safety. It's a decocker. So this gun is safe to carry with one in the chamber. You can safely decock it. Never seen anything like this before. It does have an external extractor, a little bit different design. Now, what I know about this era of Browning high powers, I guess from the 90s all the way up until I want to say like 2018 or whenever they discontinued production. Most of the Browning high powers that were made by FN in Belgium were imported to the U.S. by Browning Arms in Utah. And they were not marked FN. They would just say made in Belgium, assembled in Portugal, and they would say, the Browning Arms Company, I think it's like Ogden, Utah, or something like that, somewhere in Utah. And I think they also have an import in Montreal, Canada. So I think sometimes the slides are marked with those as well. And during I want to say, the early 2000s, between like 1999 and 2003, 2004, I do know that FN tried to modernize the high power. So a lot of the complaints about the high power, of course, being single action only, not that that's necessarily bad, but you really can't carry it cocked and locked because the safety isn't as strong it doesn't have a strong detent like the 1911. It just has some issues with it. And FN tried to modernize it. Now, I know today they have a new FN high power spelled differently. Instead of it being HI-POWER, it's HIGH. And it kind of modernized it. But back in this era, they came out with a few models. Now, I know that I actually have one that's unfired in the box. It's a Browning high power, I think it's called the SFS trigger, safety fast shooting trigger. You can actually buy that trigger mechanism from, I think it's like Cylinder and Slide or something. They still make it, but I have a factory installed one, and the gun itself says FN on it, not Browning. I know they came out with a double action version of the high power and something called, I guess it's the BDM, but I did not know they had made a compact version of it. So this is only a 10 round magazine right here. The frame is a lot shorter. Kind of has the same style of like the Mark III grips that you would find on many of the high powers. It looks and feels like a high power, just smaller. And I guess this was a very limited production gun. Some people say, I guess Richard told me, less than 2,000. And I don't know how many compacts were made. He actually carried this for a while. People that do own them and collect them say you got to be careful with them, because if anything breaks on this, especially if it's the kind of like the double action proprietary parts, you're not getting replacements because they didn't make many of them at all. So when I review this, I am going to baby it a little bit. But isn't that cool? Look at that. A compact Browning high power double action. Yeah, I have never even heard or seen one of these before. So I guess there's only like 1 or 2 videos on them out there that Richard found. So yeah, unfortunately only came with 1 magazine. So I won't be able to do like the quick magazine change test and all that kind of stuff. And hopefully this magazine works. But he did say that he carried this, so there shouldn't be an issue with it. It looks like it breaks down just like a standard high power. And it has the painted finish versus a blued finish, which is indicative of those Browning high power variants I told you about of the early 2000s. And so when I bring this out and talk about it, I'm going to show off my Browning high power SFS, or yeah, fast, safe shoot. I gotta go look at those numbers. I think it's SFS, safe, fast shooting is what I'm pretty sure it is. But anyway, it's in my safe next to my other high powers. So that's going to be interesting. Oh, it also has a weird lanyard loop to it. You can see that. It's not always comfortable when you're holding it. It kind of digs in. I guess you could take that off, but it's meant to be there. Anyway, that's going to be really cool and some content that pretty much no one else has out there. Let's talk about some other content that might be coming up on the channel. My video on about the other YouTube channels, which I try to stay away from, generally. And I did not in any way say you shouldn't subscribe to them or you shouldn't like them or anything. I just gave my personal opinions on some YouTube channels that I think are not always, I want to say factual. They're for entertainment purposes only and how they rile people up. That was one of my more controversial videos. Actually, I got a very positive response from the number of likes on that video. Normally, when I do my commentary videos, I get more thumbs down than normal, which is fine. You don't have to like my content or my opinions. Like my pistol brace stuff, I would say I'd get about 80% positive, 20% negative, where most of my range reports are about 100% to 96% positive. But I got about 92, 93% positive on that video, but I did lose subscribers. I saw that on my analytics, and which is fine with me. And it just goes to show that some people are in what I refer to as the cult. And that's fine. You can have your favorite YouTubers, and just because someone doesn't like your favorite YouTuber doesn't mean you gotta hate them, I'm sure you guys have YouTubers that you absolutely love that I don't like, or vice versa. YouTubers that I think are awesome that you guys might hate for whatever reason. And I don't hate you because of it. You just gotta go watch what you want to watch. But if people want to leave, that's perfectly fine. But I think for this week's commentary video, I'm probably going to rock the boat a little bit more because I have some thoughts on the news about the number of amnesty-registered pistol braces. Now, I have to go look up the exact number. I want to say it's like 250,000, like 256,000, something like that. There's an exact number that the ATF has said. And a lot of channels out there, big channels. In fact, when I was loading my camera phone up to film this video, one of my recommended videos from another channel was like, the amnesty registration is a complete failure, and it had like a image of Joe Biden like crying, like that. Obviously, it's kind of clickbaity and dramatic. But I'm going to ask people in this video about, was it really mass noncompliance? Now, we all have biases. We all have biases, okay? And we all have to be honest about those biases. And it's totally fine if things appear to be something that you want to believe and you go, that's what it is. We do that all the time in a number of different aspects of life, But I think I came up with a good analogy. I'm going to kind of run through it with you guys. So you guys are going to see this probably before obviously Sunday, and you guys will know where I'm going to go with this. But the analogy I think I've come up with this is, imagine you are, let's just say you grew up in a town, okay? Whatever town that is, Main Street, USA, whatever town that is. And before you could drive, the speed limit through downtown was 35 miles an hour. It's always been 35 miles an hour. When you learned to drive, speed limit was 35 miles an hour. When you grew up, you're 20, 30, 40 years old, speed limit is still 35 miles an hour. And then one day, there's an accident, a terrible, terrible accident, where let's just say a person is driving way too fast, going 70 miles an hour down this 35 mile an hour street. And an accident occurs, and unfortunately, a kid passes away because of the actions of somebody else. And it's a big tragedy because this kid could have been the son or daughter of somebody important in the town. And in response to this, in the next election, there is a mayor. And the mayor says, I am the anti-driving fast candidate. I am going to stop, speeding in our town. And so they get elected, okay? Maybe that's just one part of their platform, but that's something that they're passionate about. And then one day at a city council meeting, they pass an ordinance that we're going to change the speed limit on the main drag of the town from 35 miles an hour to 25 miles an hour. Because after all, if it saves just one life, it's worth doing. Now, there's no public announcement of this. Now, the government has done everything they're supposed to do, right? They had a city council meeting. Now, let me ask you, how many of you guys go to every one of your city council meetings? Probably none of you, right? Nobody goes to those things. And they pass ordinances all the time. And all they have to do legally is post them somewhere, maybe on like the government website for the town. Maybe you put it in on like a poster on City Hall. But how many of you guys are checking your town's website or going to your City Hall to see these rule changes and these changes? Well, you don't even pay attention. You're just living your life normally. And one day you start going down the street on Main Street, USA, and you're going 35 miles an hour. And you get pulled over. And the officer says, I need to see your license and registration. Did you know that you were speeding, sir? No, I was going 35 miles an hour. It's been 35 miles an hour since before I could drive and spin that speed limit for 35 years. Sorry, speed limit's now 25 miles an hour. And of course, ignorance is not an excuse for breaking the law. You just didn't know. You didn't go through the procedures. And the town didn't really go out of their way. They just changed the sign one day. You had no idea. You were going about your business. But now you've broken the law. And that same day, because so many people did not know that the speed limit had changed, because they're not following county politics or city politics, there's this mass number of people that are speeding down the road. Maybe they're just going 35 because they think that's the speed limit, but now the speed limit is 25 miles an hour. Could you go and say, see, this law and this speed limit is stupid because look at all this mass non-compliance? Is it mass non-compliance because people disagree with the speed limit? Or is it mass non-compliance because nobody really was paying attention and the rule or the regulation and the speed limit changed? Now, yes, the government went through these proper procedures, but they're under no obligation to go on to the news and take out ads in the newspaper or promote it on Facebook so you see it as an ad. Hey, everybody, be aware that the speed limit has changed. No, they just say speed limit has changed. It's up to you to know. So let me ask you, I know that you guys follow gun news and politics because that's why you're here, right? You guys are obviously gluttons for punishment because you watch the Texas Gun Vault and the Texas Gun Vault 2. But how many of you guys out there are following the regulations on fishing or whatever? You're probably not, right? Well, most people, most gun owners, most people that own pistol-braced guns, okay, aren't like you and I. We are, when it comes to gun owners, let's just admit it, we are in an elite class. We are people that are nerds, dorks, and geeks. And I mean that in a very positive way. We love guns. We love guns. And we like talking about guns. We like seeing guns being shot. We like to shoot guns. We like to follow gun politics. That's what we do. We're dorks. We're like, man, what's going on? What's this latest case? What's this new law? I got to follow this. I got to do that. Because we're constantly consuming gun content, right? But most people don't. They don't. Think about it. I mean, how many gun owners are there in the U.S.? What do they say, 100 million or more? How many of those people are watching gun content on YouTube or follow gun stuff? Right? I know plenty of gun owners that might own 2, 3, 4, 5, even 10 guns. But they don't follow this stuff like you or I, and they're completely confused by it. In fact, I'm not going to say who or what. I've been contacted by about 10 people now, just in the past couple of days, at my email address at thetexasgunvault@gmail.com. And people are asking me questions going, I had no idea that this was happening. I just found your video. I looked it up. Now I'm scared. What do I do? Can I still register? How do I register this amnesty going through this process? And I tell them, you can't. It's over. That's it. Done. And it's not that these people were disagreeing with the ruling. They just have no idea. I mean, navigating the NFA waters can be very complicated. Most people don't even know what the NFA is. I mean, we know what the NFA is. That's why when you talk to most people out there and you tell them, hey, I own a silencer, I own a suppressor, they're like, but those are illegal. No, they're not. You guys know they're not illegal. You just got to go through the paperwork and the process. But most people have no idea. Even gun owners don't know. And that law has been on the books since 1934, right? Excuse me. But yeah, this is why I think so few were registered. Now, I'm not saying that because I'm biased, because I have some stake in this game. I really don't honestly care when it comes to me because none of it affects me, okay? I want to see the rule get overturned. I think it's unconstitutional. But I'll be very honest with you, the NFA stuff is so complicated. It's so convoluted. It's difficult to follow if you're not following gun channels like mine or watching gun content on YouTube or reading the gun periodicals. They have no idea. And I believe that there's a lot of people out there that just bought these cool guns at gun shows, gun shops, whatever, and don't follow. They just put it in the safe. They have no idea. The rule changed. They haven't even shot a gun in 2 years, but they own one of these. And I believe that is the mass number of these. Now, there are, of course, people that did not comply or altered their guns and just took the brace off or whatever, right? And that's all up to you and what you decided to do. But I'm going to tell you, the mass, or what I think the majority of people, this is not mass non-compliance. It's mass ignorance. It's mass unknowing the change or whatever. What did Donald Rumsfeld once say? He said, there's 3 types of information, okay? There's things that you know that you know. And then there are things that you know that you don't know. And then there are the things that you don't know, you don't know. And that's the vast majority of information and knowledge out there. You don't know what you don't know. Not just in the gun world, but in the universe. And that's where most people fall when it comes to this. So all these gun channels out there that are saying, it's mass non-compliance, we've all banded together. No, there are people that didn't comply, and that's perfectly fine. But I'm going to tell you, the large majority of people, I'm going to say 90% of people that own these guns, because most people that own them probably own one, maybe two, had no idea. They had no idea. The only thing maybe they ever heard of it was on the news one night. They're like, Biden has a gun ban. And they're like, I don't know what that is. I bought my gun legally at a gun show or a gun shop, right? I fill out a 4473. It's perfectly legal. They're probably talking about one of those machine guns because they don't know what they don't know. And that's the truth. What I think really happened. So what do you guys think? I know there's a lot of people out there celebrating, but once again, they're celebrating because they have a bias. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm fine with they don't want this to have gone through. As I don't. I think it's unconstitutional. But regardless of how you feel, facts don't care about your feelings, as Ben Shapiro says. And I believe it's important that every piece of information we put out there and everything you say, which represents us, the gun community and the Second Amendment, needs to be as level-headed, rational, and factual as possible. You don't have to like the facts. You could feel whatever you want. But the facts are what they are. And people that are just coming in to the Second Amendment or doing research on the Second, or trying to learn about it, see people celebrating misinformation. And it makes them go, well, if they're like this and can't use reason and logic and deduce what the actual facts are, how can I believe them on anything else? I really feel like these channels that are celebrating, once again, are doing bad thing. It's fine to say, woohoo, they only registered, or people only registered this much. That's perfectly fine. But you've got to be honest and say, well, maybe it's not mass compliance, because if you took off the brace, that's still complying, right? If you put on a 16-inch barrel on it, that's complying. It's not mass non-compliance, it's complying. Or, as I think, there's a lot of people out there that had no idea that this rule changed. I mean, rules literally change all the time. From fishing to driving to, for example, when you go and buy a gun at a gun shop, that 4473 could be different. In fact, I bought a gun a couple months ago, picked up a gun from my FFL, and I was surprised to see that there was a new box on the 4473. And it asks you, do you live inside the city limits? You know, because you have to put the town you live in. And then it says, do you reside in the city limits? Yes or no, or something of that nature. I had no idea that change had happened until I had to fill out the 4473. That's it. I had no idea. But apparently, there was a rule change that was published in the National Register, you know, for all these rules and regulations. Nobody said anything, and they changed the 4473. And that's it. Nobody knew. Nobody cared. And that's the way that this rule went into effect. And rules across the board happen that way all the time. So that's what I think happened. And that's what I want to talk about this weekend. But I need to kind of, you know, organize my thoughts a little bit more. So what do you think of my analogy? And but I think that's what happened. All right, so I've rambled on enough. I think my phone says 24 minutes, 24 seconds. So if you watch to the end of the video, use the word. Let's take a look at this little high power compact again. That is cool. It's so cute. It's a little high power. Use the word compact. Compact. And I know that you watch to the end. Man, that is so cool. I'm going to have content that almost nobody else out there has. I love it. So thank you, Richard. I appreciate that. And I got a few guns I got to get to the range. So anyway, thanks for listening to my rambling, as always. You guys are my biggest fans. Put that in air quotes. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching.